What's up, Huskies? Welcome back to another episode of On the Big Screen. My name is Sofia Azevedo.
And my name is Ben Parmalee.
And today we'll be talking about Project Hail Mary.
Project Hail Mary is a 2026 science fiction film based on Andy Weir's novel about a science teacher who wakes up on a spaceship with amnesia and must save Earth from the sun-dimming microorganism with the help of an alien named Rocky. So, what did you think?
I absolutely loved this movie. I genuinely felt like all of the emotions of the human experience watching this film. I walked in with high expectations. Everything was blown out of the water.
So my only expectation from the film was from you saying it's better than Interstellar, potentially. And a lot of other people like to compare it to Interstellar, but personally, I see that there's just no point. Literally, the only similarity between the two movies is that they take place in space. But I think I do like this one more just from it appeals to me and its theme and messaging. While Interstellar is just a colder movie, while this, in contrast, is extremely warm, very fun, and very cute.
You're right. The only similarity really is that they're space movies, because Interstellar, like you said, it's very intense. It's very like suspenseful. There is no laughing. There is no humor. Like it's just like a life or death situation.
It feels cold.
Which is worked for Interstellar. Like that worked for that movie. But Project Hail Mary was definitely, you laughed. The whole theater was laughing. You cried, and it also accomplished that we're saving the world kind of plot.
Yeah, that is also the other similarity. Both of them have to do with saving the human population.
I feel like this movie was definitely the most movie-like movie I've seen, and especially because I've seen a lot of the audience members getting excited about cinema again. Like this is single-handedly bringing them back into, like, movies are good again.
So the directors, I believe Chris Miller and Phil Lord, have worked together on a number of movies. You may know the Lego Movie and Cloudy of a Chance of Meatballs, and having known that, you can really tell that it's them because both those movies are funny. They got lots of gags, lots of fun dialogue, and it's just a great time in all those movies, in this one especially, which I think is their best work now.
When I heard that the Lego Batman director was working on this movie, I was like, that makes so much sense, because you're right. The humor, it's not even anything super complex. It's just real, and it's funny, and it's like, this is how normal people interact, but it's not normal people. It's a rock and a scientist.
And it is real because I learned a lot about this movie, and a lot of it that made it into the movie is improv, just from Ryan Gosling and his co-stars around him, just straight up improvising.
Ryan Gosling had a hard job to do with this movie because he was, basically for most of the movie single-handedly carrying the scenes because it was just him. And, we had flashbacks of him and like other people and how he got to be there. But when he's in space and the only person on screen is him and like he is the reason that you're interested or not, I feel like that's a lot of pressure and a big job for an actor. And he did really well with keeping us all entertained.
Yeah, it makes me think of The Revenant, which came out in 2015, where Leonardo's genuinely just in the wilderness by himself, and the majority of the movie is one character, and that also keeps you interested, despite it being like literally a solo performance, not a bunch of people to keep you occupied. And I think this was the same. Ryan Gosling just had an amazing screen presence during this whole movie. He kept you engaged, kept you laughing, and I think he did an amazing job.
I also think the way that they wrote the character and they developed his personality and his values of life really fit the movie. He's the kind of person that he's been on Earth, he knows Earth, he's a scientist, so he's always, quote unquote, he's got his head in the clouds, like he's always shooting for more. A lot of the times we see him weighing the possibility of going home versus staying in space. They did a really good job making sure he looked and acted like a scientist.
And he's very human because the trip on the Project Hail Mary is a one-way trip, and he was told that, and he said, no, I don't want to go, no, I don't want to go. So he's not just some hero, he is human, and
yeah, they literally had to drag him onto that ship. He did not want to be there.
Yeah, one thing that I really appreciated is its non-linear structure. So it kind of bounces around between space and then before on Earth, and it's actually really well done.
I personally thought the flashbacks were the only major thing that I didn't like about the movie. They were a little bit weird with timing. Like you would have this super suspenseful moment and this build, and then they would stop and they would cut to a flashback.
So this movie was shot with IMAX cameras, and what's interesting is that all the space scenes are filmed with IMAX, so if you're seeing it in an IMAX showing, the aspect ratio blows up to the full screen. Meanwhile, every single shot on Earth is the standard theatrical format where it's kind of rectangular. I thought that was really interesting how it bounced back and forth between the two aspect ratios, kind of creates like the division between the flashbacks and the present tense.
That's really cool. I don't think I would have seen that. I unfortunately did not see this in IMAX. I think that's a really good experience that you did, especially for a movie like this. I think the way that they filmed the scenes in space where you had something very awe-inspiring, like when he's doing a backflip in space and he's surrounded by this infrared light, I think it was very beautiful, and we could see what he was feeling actually experiencing that for the first time.
Yeah, and another interesting bit of information that I learned is that allegedly they used no green screens for this movie. So either that means they used blue screens, no, but that probably means that they use the electronic screens where it actually like shows space and they act around the space. They kind of started using that in the past like 6 years for movies instead of a green screen, so the actors can really see what's going on around them. And I think that's really cool that they are avoiding like green screens, that the actors can actually like feel like they're in space. The whole movie, I believe that Rocky was CGI, and it makes sense, right? He's an alien, but he was actually a real puppet, and that's just amazing.
I found that really funny. They actually recreated the cover photo, like poster for La La Land, but with Rocky and Ryan Gosling. And I thought that was really funny because, in all honesty, I think he had more chemistry with that Rock than he did Emma Stone in La La Land. They really just seemed like best friends off the bat. And you grew to care about this Rock. The Rock learned to care about Grace, the main character. It was effortless in the way they did it. I think the movie did such a good job with that found family friendship vibe.
Yeah, the Rock, he obviously doesn't speak English, so Ryan Gosling kind of has to develop a way to communicate with him, and it ends up being like a text-to-speech kind of thing. So he doesn't have the ability to have like all the emotions in a human voice, but at the same time, he's really complex.
When you were talking about the whole not using green screens, it reminded me of movies like Avatar, where you have such a vast, like, different world that the actors are majority, they're acting with green screens, or they're not. They're acting in like an open, just a room that they can't really see what they're actually going to be in the movie.
In Avatar, too, like if they're swimming through balls, or like they have to hold a whale, hold like a metal sheet, like they have nothing to go on.
Definitely think that makes it a lot harder, especially for a movie where, like Avatar, where you're immersed in a completely different world. So it's kind of hard to fit that character easier, which I think is a huge props to the actors for being able to take everybody seriously when they're yelling at like a wall or something. But with this movie, having Rocky as an actual thing to look at, especially because Ryan Gosling is alone in all of the scenes, that was really important because I could not imagine him doing a whole movie literally by himself.
Yeah, what's interesting is that the voice actor for Rocky was also the puppeteer, so they literally had that chemistry. And that originally wasn't how it was going to be. They were just going to have whatever voice actor to voice Rocky, but Ryan Gosling and the puppeteer just had so much chemistry doing their scenes that he ended up becoming the voice actor, and I think that contributes to their relationship really well. All right, now at this point, we're going to talk more about the ending, and of course, there will be spoilers about that, so if you haven't seen the movie and you want to experience it for yourself the first time, then click off.
So one of the things that I really liked about the movie was the movie's ending was that it was kind of open to interpretation. When he was in space and he had to make that decision to go save Rocky because he realized that Rocky was going to die, or to go home, and he chose to go save Rocky, I feel like that's when he made the decision that clearly he does not want to be on Earth.
Yeah, I feel like there's no reason for him to go back to Earth. Like, he's best friends with the alien planet and the children in the school. What's there for him on Earth?
Yeah, and I think, like I said before, like his whole idea as a character is someone who is always like aspiring for more. Like Earth isn't big enough for him. Like he's been there, done that. He met a rock that talked. I highly doubt that he's the kind of person as a scientist to just go back to Earth.
Granted, on the Iridian planet, he's trapped in like his own biosphere, his own little glass cage, but he seemed to be having enough fun.
It was a really cute scene, yeah, when he was teaching the little rocks about science.
Yeah, the final shot where all the little baby rocks are swinging their arms in the air and dancing and cheering. That was probably the cutest and best final shot I've seen in a long time.
And it really did show that because he was a teacher back on Earth, and he was always using that as kind of like an excuse not to go. And it was interesting because in the end, he kind of used that as a reason to stay, which was a really good turnaround.
Yeah, and it's a great callback because they kind of threw those kids in his 8th grade science class to the side, but then, oh, no, it comes back. He'll still always be a teacher, and that's basically his calling, really.
So all in all, do you think that this movie is worth seeing on the big screen, and what would you rate it out of 5 stars?
It's absolutely worth seeing on the big screen. I think you should go out and spend the extra pennies for seeing it in a better format, either IMAX or Dolby Visual with AMC. And as for a rating, I would give it a good 8 out of 10. I think it's just way above average. It's great. It makes you feel all the emotions. It makes you cry, whatever. And you need to see this movie.
I 100% agree. I think really any well-done sci-fi movie, I think, is better in space. And I'm one of the people that really regrets not being able to see Interstellar in theaters. In space, man. I heard this movie actually was like premiered in the Atmosphere or something when they had a screen up there. I don't know if you saw that. It was really funny.
That's crazy.
And no, but I think it's 100% worth seeing in the theaters because when everything's lethally silent and pitch black, you really only get the real effect of that when you're in a pitch black silent theater. I would rate it 5 out of 5 stars because it really was just everything I wanted. I was not disappointed and I got everything I wanted out of it.
All right. That's all, Huskies, and we'll catch you up on the next episode.